Hi, I'm Tina, and welcome to Addiction to Awareness. The purpose of this channel is to bring light to the powerful stories of those of us who have struggled with addiction, trauma, and how we overcame and what we do to maintain our new lives. Please do like and subscribe and share as we want to get as many stories out there as we can. Today, my guest is Maddie. Maddie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So my first question I'd like to ask my guests is, how were you exposed to drugs? When did you start? That type of stuff, or alcohol, whatever.
So uh, it all started whenever I was about 13, influenced by my big sister. Of course, there was a lot of childhood trauma that her and I had went through, and our scapegoat was alcohol. It ended up being more than that. She quickly defaulted to harder drugs like meth and heroin. She exposed me to meth at the age of 15. And from that point on, I kind of just like went downhill from there. And I wasn't like, I obviously thought I had my shit together, right? Like I was going to school and, doing the things that I needed to do as a teenager, but also at the same time, sneaking out. I was going to parties every weekend. I was doing everything that I could to get my hands on something to not feel what I felt. And of course, I thought that I could manage it. So yeah, and I mean, it quickly progressed to more and more and more. So, I mean, it was alcohols, it was pills, it was methamphetamine, and then it quickly defaulted to heroin whenever I turned the age of 21 and kind of just like stuck from there. So yeah, that's kind of.
When did you notice that the drugs or alcohol were starting to cause problems in your life?
So I was 19, and at this point I was drinking alcohol every morning, every day at noon, every day at 2, every day at 8, every day at like it just kind of not only that, I was doing cocaine as well. And I just like whenever my bank account started going like this, and I knew that like I couldn't go a day without getting like high or drunk, knew it was a problem. When I became pregnant with my fiance at the age of 19, and even then I went to go get help whenever I first found out that I was pregnant. I actually found out, so the way that it happened was I went to detox and I went to a treatment program, and that's where I found out that I and that influenced me to get better at that time. When I came back home, there were people that we surrounded ourselves, me and my fiance, we surrounded ourselves with that were just not really good influences. And there were people that we can't really escape, like family. So we would have these occasional parties that we would attend to. And when I was pregnant, and every day I regret this decision, but like I started using whenever I was pregnant. And that quickly defaulted to my son being born premature, 3 months premature. And he had to go to IC or NICU for the first 3 months of his life. I couldn't hold him. I couldn't do anything, as a mother. I just felt like an absolute failure. And when that happened, and like I knew that there was a chance that my son was not going to survive, that really implemented like the whole, wow, this, like I have such a huge problem that I'm not even willing to sacrifice that for my own kid. And that's whenever I knew it was a big problem for me. So yeah, that it really hit home whenever, I gave birth to my son at, 6 months, and I couldn't even hold my kid. So
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I have a bit of the same experience with, I was pregnant and I was using methadone, a
mhm,
medication. And so my baby was in the NICU for 3 weeks. And oh, it's, yeah, incredibly hard as a parent to have to be separated from your new baby. And
yeah.
you can come in and see them for a few minutes and whatever. But yeah, I really sympathize with you with that. So when, before you got pregnant and you were using, were you able to like maintain a job, money? Did you have to like steal or?
So, I mean, the occasional hoodlum teenage, trying to show off in front of your friends type of stealing. Yeah, like I've done that. Um, I wasn't really I didn't actually like hustle my way to get money until I was about 21 to 22. I was actually on the streets and I had no income. Um, that's whenever it became a necessity to me. And I mean, my source of income, my partner worked at a shop where his family owned it, and that was our source of income. I had jobs ever so often. Whenever I graduated at the age of 18, I went to cosmetology school. I was using there too. Like I maintained it up until my son was born, and from that point on it was a whirlwind of shame and guilt, and I just couldn't escape it. I thought I couldn't escape it. You know what I mean? So I was working my way up to get a career, and then that quickly went away whenever I had to be put on bed rest, go to the hospital, and all that stuff with my son happened. And then from that point on, it was just like I couldn't maintain my emotions and I didn't want to feel my emotions. So the first thing that I ran to was drugs. So yeah, that I hope that answers your question. I
It
kind of like
does.
go off them too.
No, it's perfect. It
uh,
does very much. Yeah. So you mentioned you had a partner. It sounds like you're with this person for some time. Um,
mhm.
did they also use drugs or
Yes,
alcohol?
yeah. So they would drink a lot. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say an everyday drinker, but like, they would party every weekend. They would, um, his brother, he would throw these parties and then we would always attend them because it was his brother, you know what I mean? He was using cocaine with me when I was pregnant. So that was kind of, you know, it, I felt more secure doing it because he was doing it with me. And so I didn't feel so bad,
Yeah.
but obviously my health condition was a lot more severe than his at that point. And
Okay. Yeah.
at the time, I just didn't realize that, uh, so he did it with me, which I know that he felt a lot of shame with it, uh, a lot of regret, you know, he's told me that, and it's of course I forgave him, but I'm not willing to forgive myself at that time. But yeah, it was very rocky with our relationship, especially after our son was born. Like we didn't really know how to connect. So that also brought in a lot of shit. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, so often once we get clean, we change our lives, they were told, we have to leave our partner, and, we have to do it on our own and stuff. So I'm really glad to hear that you guys were able to like get through this together and, still remain strong.
Right. Well, we're not together now.
Oh, you're not.
There were yeah, there were some decisions that I made after my son was born. I basically and again, a whirlwind of regret, shame, and guilt. Uh, I made the decision to leave. My son came home with me, and in the back of my mind at that time, I was thinking, I am not healthy for my child with the decisions that I make. It would be way better if I just left and I figured my stuff out for me before I implement all this toxicity into my child's life. I was trying to be mature about it. However, the choices that I was making were highly immature and highly toxic, highly, yeah. abandonment is a big thing for children, it affects them deeply. And my son is actually inside right now, but I eventually got him back. But yeah, so him and I did not work it out. We worked it out, but like as co-parents, we didn't really, there was no way that he could see himself with me with the things that I have done in our relationship. So, and I understood that, it is what it is. But there were, the apology that he gave me for doing it in front of me, the apology that I made for even, remotely abandoning both of them whenever they needed me. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And, there's a lot more details, obviously, but I don't want to, go too far into it. I don't know how long this meeting is.
Yeah. You touched on something really important that I know that, gosh, has just really been important to me, is the working on yourself, that you realized that you had some deep changing to do and work to do on yourself, and that to be the best parent and person you could be, you had to heal first your own self. So that's tremendous. That's amazing.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about your recovery journey. So you have a baby in the NICU, and you're like, I have to change and get clean. So if you're comfortable talking about it, did you like use medication, or did you kick? How did that go for you?
Sorry, I'm trying to switch. My internet connection is yeah. So okay. It was kind of like an up and down journey. I'm a multiple attender of recovery, so I've been to recovery several times. I was not a hit my rock bottom one time deal and get clean and stay sober ever since. That's not how my journey went. So basically what had happened was I left to try to figure myself out. I ended up running to drugs more, right? And I ended up living on the street. I ended up, hustling for money. I ended up, prostituting myself. And then ended up with a guy that did not treat me fairly. I was in a very domestic, violent relationship. There were times where this man would just and of course we're both on meth, right? So all emotions are heightened on that kind of drug, So he did a lot of violent acts. And so I felt like I was trapped in that relationship that I could not escape, right? So I stayed with him for a good year and a half. Finally left him. He went to prison, and that's the only reason why I thought I could leave, is because he had to go to prison, right? It was his court date. He got admitted. Now, when that happened, I was kind of on my own. I didn't really know what to do with myself. And so I ended up going back home for a little bit, going to rehab. Didn't work out that time. And then kind of on and off for a good 3 years. Ended up moving into IV heroin. And that's whenever I was hitting rock bottom at that point. You get sick, you can't breathe, you can't sleep, you can't be comfortable. I mean, it is the worst pain that I have ever been through, right? And if anybody has done it, you know that it has this big toll on you. Sorry, Teddy. It has this big toll on you.
It's all consuming. It consumes everything. It's all that matters. Yeah.
And so my rock bottom was, y'all be quiet, please. My rock bottom was whenever I was in a relationship with another guy, and I had no money. I had no drugs. I had no place to sleep at night. I had no clean clothes. I hadn't showered for a week. I mean, I was rock bottom. it had been 3 days since I had had my last hit. Like I was, oh God, like I was sweating. It was the most unbearable pain that I have ever felt, emotional, mental, and physical all at the same time. And I called my mom after multiple times of this entire time, calling her, trying to get her to come get me. And then I'd end up like going back to the streets or whatever. This time it was 2 a.m. I had called her and I told her, I was like, Mom, like, I'm done. I need you to come get me. She kind of like brushed off her shoulder one time. And a couple hours later, I call her again and I'm like, Mom, like, I need you to come get me. Like, I am seriously done. The cops actually ended up getting called because the boyfriend at the time was trying to get money for the title of our car. And I had the title of the car in my pocket and he was trying to find it. He ended up pushing me to the ground, you know, stuff, you know, neighbors got called. It was 2 a.m. You know, and he got arrested. And I told the cop, I was like, I need to go home. Like, I just want to go get clean. I want a better life. Like, I'm so tired of this life. And I will never forget what the cop like told me. He was like, look, if you want to call your mom, that's fine. If you need to go somewhere, I'll take you wherever. And I mean, that like, I'm still in contact with that police officer to this day. Like, I'm so grateful for him. He actually drove me while I was like in and out, like sweating and like profusely, like I was just like crying because I was in so much pain. He drove me to the QT about like 20 minutes away and met my mom, and I went home. And that same day I got checked into rehab. I went 6 hours away, so I knew I was not coming back. That's the best time to do it, and that's the best like area to do it is not near your home. It is so easy to leave. I suggest somewhere out in the middle of nowhere where you cannot escape. That is, I mean, I am so grateful. I went to Dovetree in Lubbock, Texas. I am grateful for each and every person that has helped me out through that entire process. So,
yeah. You brought up a great point about how you had tried repeatedly, called your mom, wanted to stop. And that's something I know that we can all identify with as addicts, families of addicts, that it doesn't usually happen on the first time. Same with domestic violence relationships. You want to go, you want to stop, but it takes time. It takes so many tries, and don't give up hope, you know, because
right.
look at you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like one thing too is just like psychologically, it's called the trauma bond, right? So when your brain suppresses from that type of energy that you get from that person, and it's like an absence of dopamine, it's an absence of adrenaline, it's an absence of all these chemicals that are in your brain. So you think that, you know, it's okay to go back, or you have this like missing piece of your life that you've known for so long. It's comfortability. It's like comfortability in pain, right? Because some people think that they deserve that type of pain. Some people think that they, you know, that's what's meant for them, but it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
So
you went to rehab. You successfully completed that program,
yes,
and then
yes.
I know that we destroy relationships. Our relationships with our friends and family are often hurt.
Yeah.
Did you have that? And what was it like rebuilding those relationships? Did they trust you?
So there for a little bit, because I've tried repeatedly to get back into my son's life. In the midst of that, I did have another child. He was in foster care, but neither here nor there. I tried repeatedly to get custody or, you know, have visits with my first son, and repeatedly I messed up those times, right? There was a lot of trust issues whenever it came to my son's father and I. It was so hard at first. And the reason why I say that is because I felt like I was completely micromanaged, but that is normal. right? You are building back trust with somebody. You are trying to prove your worth and prove that you are able to be in that person's life without destroying their mentality, without destroying their emotions. So the micromanaging is just part of it. And now you can make these healthy boundaries, but you have to be willing to prove some type of worth to these people, or some type of trust with these people that you have broken that with, right? So my family, I had to be supervised, right? I couldn't leave the house whenever I wanted. They had my location in my phone. They had access to my phone at all times. I mean, like that was one thing that, like, I put my family through hell, you know. I have lied, I have cheated, I have stolen, I even, like, I mean, I tried stealing money out of my grandmother's wallet, like literally right in front of her. And it was just, there was a constant battle with myself. And so, after going through the program and after going through sober living and, you know, creating healthy habits for myself, you start to get a better understanding of why people set these boundaries for you and why they want to build back the trust that they had for you at one time. And some people, whenever they get like fresh out of rehab, or they only go to detox, or they don't like actually implement the program, it's they don't have that understanding in the back of their head. Like, for instance, like my sister, she still struggles with addiction. She's actually in rehab right now. But that was one thing that she really struggled with, was the micromanaging after coming home, right? Because obviously our family wants to help us, you know, they want to see us grow. So they want us to be somewhere safe. They're willing to do that with all these healthy boundaries. So my sister actually really struggled with that, and repeatedly, time and time again, she just didn't accept it, and she would rebel, and she would, you know. So that's why I'm saying, you would have, me personally, I had to go through the program in order to understand why people did things, or understand why I needed to build back the trust, understand why I needed to take a daily inventory. Like, you won't know until you try it, and you won't know until you do it, right? So but yeah, grateful every day for it.
Yeah. Wow. Very powerful.
Yeah, thank
So,
you.
yeah, yeah. So you, how long have you been clean, sober, or, living your new life for?
So I've been sober since February 27th of 2020. So over 3 years now. Yeah.
And you
So,
have both your kids? Do you have a
ew.
career? What do you do?
So, my goal was to go back to cosmetology school and finish that, right? In order to do that, you have to have money. Uh, and, you know, obviously with the kids, my son, my first son, I have partial custody. They have primary custody. They live in Savannah, Georgia. I live here in Texas. My second son lives with me full time. I do have a lot of help. His foster parents actually became his godparents. And yeah, so they're a part of his life every day. Very grateful for that help, because I don't have a significant other that can help me with those things. I have my family, thankfully, and I have his godparents now. So that's my living situation. As far as careers go, I've been in the sales industry for about 2 years. For the first year, I managed a 7-Eleven, actually two 7-Elevens. And the second year, I went into sales. So I did like door-to-door sales for fiber internet. I quickly, within 6 months, became a team lead. Started, taking people to their areas, dropping them off, and then going to my area and then knocking myself. I would get commission plus salary, plus override. I was in a very good state. However, our company kind of like went under. They weren't opening up new areas for sales. So that basically meant no more money for me. after that, I went into the car sales industry, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. So
Cool. I hope you make
yeah,
lots of money doing that. That sounds fun.
yeah. The
Yeah.
goal is to get money saved up and go back to school. So
Awesome. Well, I know you're going to reach that goal because you are so motivated and you have the willingness and the awareness and stuff. So I know that you're going to do anything that you want to do.
yeah, exactly. I mean, anybody can do what they want to do as long as they
Yeah,
take those steps, you know? So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So what do you do now if you have a bad day or, you're a craving or something?
Okay. So I forgot to, oh, also I forgot to answer your question earlier about medication. Yes, I'm on medication. I'm on Suboxone. Yes. I've been on maintenance Suboxone ever since I've gotten clean. Now, quite honestly, for me, it's like a safety net, right? I know that I'm not going to be able to go out and get high if I wanted to, right? So for me, it's a safety net. Now, of course, everybody has those bad days where, they don't feel like they can get through it, right? Um, I recently went through a breakup, and I can literally give you an example of what I've done each and every time I've had these days. So I recently went through a breakup of a 2-year relationship, right? Um, it was not a healthy relationship, and I understood that. I finally took the step to respect myself and not put myself in a situation where I'm constantly hurt, right? Uh, but of course, when you do that, there is heartache, there is pain, right? So the day that we broke up, I was at work, it was in the morning, and I finally told my boyfriend at the time, I said, look, I cannot do this anymore. I will come get my things later today. I'm going to be moving into my mom's. There were some things that he was not willing to do in order to help our relationship grow. And so I knew at that point that I was not going to be happy ever in that relationship. So I made that very conscious decision for myself that I was just going to go, right? I was at work, and like when that happened, I felt like my entire heart sank to my stomach. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to like focus on work. I wanted nobody to talk to me because I knew if somebody asked me if I was okay, I'm going to just start bawling. I'm going to, freak out. And then I immediately called my therapist and my sponsor at the same time, immediately. My sponsor just kind of like said, before you do anything, do you need me to listen or do you need advice? And I told her, look, I don't know. I just kind of want to like let this all out before I, go insane. uh, and then I told her what happened. She said, go ahead and talk with your therapist and then go ahead and do a daily inventory at the end of the day. But you call me if you need me. Right. So I went ahead and I called my therapist. I set up an appointment for my lunch break. Immediately, whenever I got on that phone call, like I just kind of started crying. And I knew at that point, like I just needed to get it all out, right? There are those days where you feel like you just need to cry, and it's healthy too. It is healthy to cry. Not every day is going to be easy, but I know that as long as I don't take that first step to use, if I don't make contact with anybody that I used to know, if I don't, if I keep remembering things that I have achieved during my time of sobriety, if I keep reminding myself of those things, I know that I'm not going to take that first step to go use. I'm not going to pick up the phone and call my ex-dealer and be like, look, I just need something. I know personally that that's the way that I roll. If I think of the things that I have accomplished, I know that I'm not going to want to go back to that. Also, I remember that pain whenever I called my mom that one night. I remember that pain, and I remember the chills. I remember the aches. I remember the no money. I remember not being bathed and I was filthy. I was bleeding. I like, I had some maternal things going on down there after I had my second child. Like, I remember that, and I never want to go back to that ever. Anything is better than that, right?
That's amazing, because so many times our addiction tricks us. And when we're feeling low, we think of, oh, the escape and the good times and all that, good stuff. And we kind of tend to forget the terrible feelings that we had. So I'm so glad that you are able to hold on to that and remember that.
Yeah.
Um, and it sounds like when you are struggling and having a bad day, instead of reaching for a dealer's number, you reach out to your support system. You have your
Right.
sponsor, you have your therapist. So it's like finding these other ways and avenues of dealing with your emotional pain that's
Right.
not substances.
Yeah. And but yeah, and you're right. Like, support is what you should run to at all times, whether it's good or bad. Like, you would love to celebrate your accomplishments with your support system. I personally love doing that. I'll come to my support system whenever I did something great, or or if I'm feeling something bad, like if I'm thinking about doing something bad, like, but that support system is not there just for your negative times. They're there for your positive times too. They're there to cheer you on along the way. And that's like another thing too. I feel like I have to utilize my support system. Otherwise I will go crazy and I will fall back. Because you never know if you need that daily reminder, like, hey, just think of the things that you went through back then. Like, think of, the pain that you suffered through. Like, sometimes people will forget that stuff. And, it's always great to have that reminder from your support system. Like, you need to remember those things. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I can remember it was very hard for me the first, 20 times I went to 12-step meetings to be able to ask for help, to talk
Yeah.
to rely on other people, because we're so used to doing it ourselves. I don't
Yeah.
need help. And the way I thought of it was, I like people to come to me with their successes and their struggles. So I
Yeah.
know that my support system also likes to be helpful in that way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And I mean, like, also, if you keep yourself occupied and you keep yourself busy on helping the next person that is struggling, you're going to have a lot better time with coping with your own stuff too. Um, I believe in karma. Me personally, I believe in karma. So I know that if I'm focused on helping the next person that's struggling, I know that I'm not going to have such a hard time with my own struggles, because I know that I'm implementing my efforts into something that's helpful, into something that's going to, better somebody else, and that alone betters me, so
yeah. So instead of tearing yourself down, now you're building yourself up and you're helping to build up other people.
yeah.
Um, God, Maddie, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Um, is there anything that you would say to an addict that is struggling right now?
If it were me, right? If it were me and I was struggling and I was watching this, um, it's okay. Like, it's okay to get help. To it's okay to feel the pain that you're feeling. Reach out though. Please, like, reach out. And the reason why I say that is, like, what you were just saying. We feel like we can just do it on our own. Whenever it comes to drug addiction, you can't. There is no doing it alone. Um, you have to have the help, the professional help. You have to have a support system. And if you don't have that, you can build one, but you have to reach out. It sucks, being on the street. It sucks hurting every day and itching for the next high. It feels so good to not have that urge, like, I can't breathe without it. Just reach out. Like, that's really all that matters. As long as you are trying, you're gonna go a long way. And that's pretty much all I have to say. It's not easy. Believe me, it's not easy, but it's very much worth it. in my opinion. And not everybody does feel that way, but like from all the people that I've met in recovery, they have been beyond blessed for the life that they have been given, the second chance that they have been given. I know that I would have died if I stayed out there. The question is whether they would want to, whether y'all would want to, if anybody's watching this, right? Do you want tomorrow to be your last day? Because that is an option. Like that is a reality. It could happen, right? Just reach out. That's all I got.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, please do reach out. Okay, thank you so much. Everybody, we're going to end this. Please like and subscribe and share and all that good stuff. And thank you so much, Maddie. It was great talking to you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All righty.
All right.